Okay, let's go. Hi everyone. Hi. Hey, hey, hey. Just letting everyone in. Hope you're all good. Hey Sam. I am recording this, so if you don't want to have your face on camera, that's all good. But if there is anyone who does want to show their face, it's quite nice, so I don't feel like I'm talking to myself, which is always lovely. Just letting everyone in. Hope everyone's good.
Hmm.
Hey Barry. Hey Kath.
Hi there.
Nice to see you all. Hi Finlay.
Afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Hi Claire.
Hi, Helen.
So yeah, just recording this. So if anyone doesn't want their face on camera, then of course, then feel free to take yourself off. But otherwise, it's lovely to see everyone's faces. So thank you for those that are keeping their camera on. Um, just letting more people in. We've got about 60 people on this course, so I just need to make sure that everyone who wants to get in can get in, which is wonderful for me. The more people I can talk to, the better. We can do a quick Q&A at the end as well. This won't go on any longer than about 45 minutes. So I know you're all busy. I can stay as long as you need me to, but so keep a note on the end for questions at the end. Hopefully you've all got notepads, and I like to be a bit old school. I like to just talk and answer questions and get you thinking, and it's not all fancy slides and things, it's content, which hopefully is going to help you. That's the plan. Yeah, no worries if you need to take turn your cameras off at any point. Right, just so you know, I'm sure you will have seen that at the end of this, for those to sort of say thank you for giving the time, basically, and for those of you that are joining now in person live, I'm going to give one of you a free pass to our next author brand coaching course, which is worth £1,000. So in itself, that's quite a nice little Thursday present, hopefully, for somebody. And there is also going to be a free downloadable PDF, basically, of all the notes from today as well. So, but do make your own notes, because sometimes you kind of interpret things in a different way, and it's quite nice to go back to your own notes. You might get a spark of an idea from this and think, what was that later on? The whole point of this course is to give you 5 actionable tips, basically. Sorry, I'm just filling the room at the minute. So the idea being that you're going to have 5 things that you can actually start actioning straight away. You don't need to have any previous experience in marketing. You don't have to have a certain number of books behind you. You don't need to know how to do X, Y, Z on social media. You should be able to get at least 1 thing from this, if not 5 things from this. If not more than 5 things, to be honest, because if anyone who knows me, there's always a to-do list at the end of every time I speak to anyone, for me and for them. Right, okay, I'm going to get cracking, and I'll just let everyone else in as they come through. We've given it 4 minutes, so that's probably as good as it's going to get. All right, so thank you everyone for joining, for making the time to join this lunchtime workshop. As I said, it's not really like all about the fancy slides and the sort of trying to sell you loads of stuff. This is just literally about me sharing my knowledge and experience, and hopefully giving you some ideas and some inspiration. Really grateful for everyone that's taken the time to join me at their lunch break today, or making time to have a lunch break and sit down and actually do this for yourself. I know it's busy. I know that you're juggling a million things. I don't know an author that isn't ridiculously busy with deadlines and just life in general. And often I know that building a readership and working on author branding and things, that can often drop to the bottom of the to-do list. There's no judgment here, because we're all doing the same thing. We're all doing exactly the same thing. So that's why I decided to create this session, and it seems to have resonated with people, the idea of thinking of 5 things that we could do that would actually make a difference in terms of building your author brand and building your readership faster, but without kind of wasting time and burning out and just spending time on things that don't really need to be done. So for those of you that don't know me, and there are quite a few faces here that I do recognise, which is lovely, but there's also some new faces and some new names. I'm Helen. I'm the director, founder of Literally, which is basically a book marketing and author branding agency. I'm also the co-founder alongside author Abiola Bello of the Diverse Book Awards and #Press, and we've also got the Inc Book Prize, which is open for self-published authors. So any self-published authors that published a book last year, you should enter, because you've got a very strong chance of being shortlisted. It's only the second year of us doing this prize. The Diverse Book Awards we've been doing for 6 years now, so it's kind of grown a life of its own. But the Inc Book Prize is still early days, so if you want to get involved in that, have a look up Inc Book Prize and you'll see more about that. But if you self-published a book last year, then you should definitely get involved in that. And I've worked on over 700 campaigns now over the past 12 years, so I've seen a lot of what works and arguably what doesn't work so well, and things change all the time. So it's just trying to keep on top of all the different social media platforms and ways that readers find books and discover authors and connect with authors. It's always changing all the time. Which is fun, but it is also, like I say, a full-time job in itself. So hopefully you'll get some tips from me today that will help you out and be sort of a bit of a shortcut, really, to you having to make some of your own mistakes and stuff. Just let me make the mistakes for you, basically, and then you can get the good stuff. So I've spent the past few years developing something called the 10 C's Author Brand Framework, which is basically a course that I've taught 3 times now over the past year, and it gets really good results. And everything that I do around author branding is centered around these 10 C's. So the 10 C's are create, clarity, confidence, captivate, communicate, connect, cultivate, collaborate, community, and consistency. And when I was thinking about this workshop, I really had the first one in mind, which is create, and the 8th one, which is community. But essentially, every time you do anything around author branding, you're probably covering a number of those different types of strategies, or C's, 10 C's as we call them. So my first tip really is just to make sure that you actually do block out some time. So schedule some time into your weekly routine to actually spend on this. Now, if that's half an hour a week, that's better than no time a week. And I know this is a bit basic, but I genuinely don't believe that any of us really schedule the time to do this. And if we do it for a bit and then it's not consistent, and then we sort of get distracted by everything else. So if you schedule it half an hour a week on a Monday morning, or ideally an hour every other day would be like the goal. I don't think it's realistic to think that anyone can do it every day, but if you can, go you, right? But basically, working on the business of being an author is vital for long-term success. If you don't put the time in, you're not going to get the results out. Exactly the same for any kind of social media platform and social media growth. If you don't put the time in, it's not going to grow organically and effectively for the long term. There's never any point in buying followers. That never works. The shortcuts don't ever work, basically. So you do have to put the time in, and you do have to schedule that time. So what you're going to get from this session is you're going to get 5 areas to focus on. One may resonate more with you than another, and that's absolutely fine. You don't have to do all of them, but the aim of this course is that you could go away and actually action some of these straight away, or you could do it tonight after work, or however you want to do it. So let's get started. So we're already at 8 minutes past. I think everyone's in now. Okay. So the first tip is to set up or optimize your mailing list. So you might not already have a mailing list, and that's absolutely fine. I don't know if anyone went to London Book Fair this year, but every workshop, every panel, every person I spoke to was talking about the mailing list. Every year I try and find a theme, like a buzzword that's being used in London Book Fair. Last year it was TikTok, this year it's mailing list. Literally everyone's talking about them. Why? Because they are basically the one thing that you own as an author. You know, you could have an amazing social media following that could disappear overnight because the person who owns the platform shuts it down, or like me, spend years building up X and then it just goes to after everything that's been happening over the past sort of 6 months on that platform. So you know, you can put a lot of time and money and investment of energy into building up a social media platform, and then it disappears, and that's out of your hands completely. Whereas having a mailing list means that you basically have a community of people who are interested in you and your writing. And even if you've only got, say, 20, 30 people in that mailing list, that's 20 or 30 people who have said, I really like what you're doing and I want to hear more about you. And that is really invaluable. I've been in meetings with the big traditional publishers and authors and their agents, and they have asked that question, how many people are in your network? And they weren't particularly bothered about how many people were on their socials. They were more bothered about how many people they had in their mailing list. In fact, they were very specific. That's what they wanted to know the numbers of. So if you don't already have an author mailing list, you will have heard about them because they're, like I say, talked about everywhere. And I really do think today's probably the day to start. Now you can do this on a really simple Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet. It doesn't have to be this fancy pants kind of high flying tech thing. And that's often something that puts people off, is the idea of understanding the tech and working out which software to go for and what subscription they should go for and how much it's going to cost and how much time it's going to take and all the rest of it. What you can literally do is just look at setting up an Excel spreadsheet and putting in the names and the emails of the people that you're already connected with, that you basically they've already given you their permission, basically. If you haven't got anyone yet, that's okay. We all have to start with nobody at some point, right? So, but just start that spreadsheet and then start thinking about what you're going to do with that spreadsheet. What would you put on that? You'd basically mostly be looking for the name and their email address, right? But some people do ask for phone numbers because they want to set up like a private WhatsApp group. I've seen this happen a lot more with like coaches and non-fiction sort of expert authors, where they want to build like a mastermind group or something like that. People are going to be more reticent to give you their phone number than they are their email address, as we all are, because we're all the same sorts of people. So, just really think about whether you do actually want that phone number and how you would use it. Once you've started to collect those names and those email addresses and those contact details, you can then obviously import that Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheet into one of the mailing list servers, software things that you can pay for. So MailerLite, MailChimp, they're the ones that people tend to go for. And you don't have to pay straight away. I think it's when you get to a certain number, blah, blah, blah. But, it's something that you could do down the line. If it sounds a bit scary, just do the Excel spreadsheet thing to start with. The other place that people are looking at a lot is Substack. So on Substack, you can basically build a mailing list in the community. Many authors are successfully doing that right now. It's basically, you don't need to do both Substack and a mailing list separately if you don't want to. There's no reason why you would make your life more difficult by doing that. You can if you want. There's no rules. But if you're going to choose the Substack route, then really focus on that. Don't try and spread yourself too thin. Don't do Substack with the immediate goal of making money. A lot of authors have been told, oh, I've made £1,000 extra revenue a month by doing exclusive premium content for my members and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, they have, and that's great, but that's come in time. Like with any kind of readership or an audience that you're building, it's very unlikely that you're going to start being able to monetize that straight away. And I think if you go in with that goal, it's probably going to be a bit disheartening for you. Substack is something that if you like the idea of creating lots of content and you like writing, I mean, who here doesn't, then you probably would have a nice time on Substack if you like the idea of writing blogs and things like that and articles. If on LinkedIn you're the sort of person who likes to write the articles and all the rest of it, then Substack could be a good place for you. So have a look at that. And basically that's another way of building up a mailing list style community. So okay, so strategically, what sort of things can you do now? So if you haven't set it up, then obviously you can, as a very bare minimum, just create an Excel spreadsheet and call it mailing list, right? That's one thing you can do. If you've already got one, then it's time to start asking yourself some honest questions about how you're using it. So if you've already set up a mailing list, but you're rarely doing anything with it, then ask yourself, is it really clear who that mailing list is for? And not just who is it for, but what are you trying to achieve with it? Do you know how many people are already on your mailing list and who they are and where they came from? And how often have you been sending out an email to that mailing list? Again, being honest with yourself, you might have had this goal of sending out an email once a month. Have you realistically done that? And then I think moving on and just, right, okay, that was then, this is now. How often do you actually want to send out an email to the mailing list moving forward, and what's realistic for you? So don't over promise and under deliver. Is the sign up link easy to find on your website? Is that where people are going to sign up, or are you directing people to Substack? Is it very clear on your social media where they need to go to if they want to connect with you? Bear in mind, a lot of authors use a mailing list as a way of people contacting them so that the contact can be much more controlled. So obviously you can have your email on your website and you could have a contact form on your website and a mailing list on your website. But if you give people lots of opportunities and different ways of contacting you, they're probably going to take the one that probably feels like the path of least resistance, which is probably the email address. So just be really clear about how you feel comfortable with other people contacting you as an author. Okay. And then have a think about what the reason or incentive is for people to join. So when you get someone joining your mailing list, especially if you're using something like MailLite or MailChimp, you will be able to set up an automatic email that goes straight to them just saying thanks for signing up. Okay, that's part of the package for all the mailing lists services. So I would recommend you go back over that email and just double check that it's serving you well at the moment. Check it works to start with by signing up via a different email address and just making sure that it does actually work. Check it's relevant. This is the sort of thing that authors often will set up sort of 3 or 4 books previous to where they're at now, if they're on a number of books, and it might be a bit out of date. It might not really be doing you the best justice at the moment. And then see if there's anything you can do to add a bit more of your personality to it. And then the next thing to think about is closing the loop. So I'm always talking about closing the loop. So whenever somebody comes into your world, you want to kind of close the loop and just channel them around where you want them to go. So the mailing list is a great place for that. So if somebody came to your mailing list from your social media, for example, or they saw something on somebody else's social media and they thought this author sounds lovely, I'm going to go and have a look at what they're doing, and then they signed up. If they then got an email from you saying, right now go to my Goodreads page and follow me on there, or now please go to, I don't know, my Instagram page and follow me on there, but try and get people to kind of do something else afterwards that helps them stay in the loop. So the more access points that they have to you that you control, the better. And social media and mailing list are 2 of those. And then we're going to think now as well about how you get people over to your mailing list. So we're going to think about how you can attract the right reader. Okay, so basically we need to think about what we call lead generating. So in a very traditional marketing sense, what we're trying to do is get leads to come to you, so people to come to you, okay? So it's basically adopting that, but from an author perspective. So if you look at what other authors are doing, they'll often be coming up with some sort of freebie incentive as to why that reader or potential reader should come over to your mailing list. It could be a bonus chapter that you've written, an epilogue, prologue, a short story, some character art, a behind the scenes letter from you. There's loads of different things that you could create, types of content that you could create. And it doesn't have to be super fancy and it doesn't have to be really expensive. It just needs to have a perceived value to them. Okay. So make it clear on your website or wherever you're talking about your mailing list that if they sign up to your mailing list, they're going to get this in return. And you can switch it up so you don't have to have the same incentive or the same lead gen just all the time. You can try different things and see which ones resonate best with your readership. So you might find that the sort of, if you're particularly, for example, in children's books or something like that, then you might find that the teacher resources or the parent resources or the classroom resources do really well, but the sort of character art or behind the scenes doesn't resonate so well. So just see what tends to be getting the most interest. And you'll see that very clearly because you'll get an uptick, right, in the number of people that are signing up to your mailing list. And you can then also use that lead generator to create other types of content. So if you did have a epilogue that you wrote for the book that didn't actually make it into the book, or a workbook, if you're a non-fiction author, a worksheet that you wanted to add to complement some of the work in your book, then you could be offering that via your social media. So it could be part of your social media content plan is to actually talk about this piece of content, and the only way that people can get access to that piece of content is by signing up to your mailing list. Now, if they're already on your mailing list, then the idea would be that they should also get that. Okay, you should be rewarding the people that are part of your mailing list. So you would want to give that to them as well. So that would be part of your next newsletter to people that haven't signed up, that have already signed up. That you'd be like, here it is. Just in case you haven't seen it yet, here's the worksheet or here's the epilogue. Would love your feedback on it. So social media basically is a really good connector for you, but your mailing list really is the engine of your readership. It's really where you want to be focusing your attention. It really works well for lots of other authors. There's no reason why it wouldn't work for you. And the reason why it works very well for other authors is because they are building a community of readers and potential readers. So they are consistently communicating with them and they're building that community. And that is really, really, really important as an author because they are your readers. Okay, so that's the first bit. I've seen some questions popping up, which is great. I will get to those, I promise. Right, the next one, number 2, is building loyalty with the readers that you already have. So that was all about trying to acquire readers and acquire people to your mailing list. But what about the people who you've already got? They've read your book, they come to your events, they love what you're doing already, they follow you on social media, they've already signed up to the mailing list if you've got one. There's a few things that you could do today that would really help build that loyalty and cement that loyalty. And they're super easy, and you could be doing those again in your half an hour a week, where you can basically, one of them is go back and reply to a reader email or a DM or a comment on one of your social media posts. Don't leave them hanging, okay? If somebody takes the time to like a post and comment on a post, then the least you can do is reply to them and build up that dialogue. Social media is meant to be sociable, so really do socialize on there, engage with people. You can actually proactively create content that thanks reviewers and readers. So it could just be a general thank you to my readers post, and they may well feel seen in that respect by putting it out on your social media. One step better would be to actually thank specific reviewers and readers. So if you've just done a blog tour, for example, you could do a post where you thank all the different people and you tag them in it. We do a reviewer, like highlight a reviewer post very regularly on our social media, where we will specifically take a quote from one of their reviews. We will tag them in it and we'll be like, thank you so much for taking the time to read this book and review it. So if you've done any kind of review strategy or review activity around your book at any point, then it is definitely worth reviving that and thanking those people for taking the time. And then if you have got any people in your mailing list already, then it's definitely a good idea to sometimes send them a thank you email, a thank you message. Doesn't have to be any sales, doesn't have to be any call to action, just literally gratitude. So you could even give them one of your lead generating documents. So you could be like, here's a invite to an upcoming event, or here's a bonus chapter, or here's something for you for free, just to say thank you, I appreciate you being part of my community. Readers who feel seen and appreciated are far more likely to become repeat buyers. They're more likely to recommend your book, and then obviously they'll enter the superfan stage, which is what we're all loving the idea of. Is somebody who will literally buy anything that you write. That's what we want to get to. So just building that loyalty, it can take no more than a couple of minutes, but it's definitely worthwhile you taking the time and engaging with those people. Okay, number 3 is to just do a very quick spring clean of your website. If you haven't already got an author website, we'll tackle that in a sec, but this is for those of you that do, and believe me, every single author should have one. You should have an author website in your author name, okay? Not in the book title name, because you're going to write more than one book. So you are the brand, you are the author, you are the creator, however you want to call yourself, and your products are your books underneath it, and obviously there might be other things as well. So go to your author website as if you're a completely new reader who has come across your website for the first time via a social media post, okay? So imagine they have no idea who you are, but they like the look of what somebody had said about you, or they like something that you had posted, and they thought, I'm going to have a look at this person. Okay, they're just following the trail, like people do on socials, especially on their phone, when they're just waiting for a bus or on a train or whatever it is. They're just going to follow the trail. Okay, so what are they going to find when they get to your website, and what would you like them to find? So basically, ask yourself very honestly these 3 questions. Will they be able to see who you are? And I literally mean your name, your author name. Will they be able to know, right, they're not going to guess who you are. They know, right, this is this person's website. Will they be able to see what you write? So who you are, what you write, and how to connect with you. So the who, the what, and the how are the really big questions. The first 3 questions that we want to make sure that people can answer very quickly when they come to your website. On top of that, what would be really helpful in the context of the other stuff we've just talked about is if your mailing list is front and center. So it's really easy to find. It's really clearly communicated as to what they're going to get if they hand over their email address, and how often they should expect to hear from you. Again, be really honest with yourself. Don't overcommit. If you're not going to be able to do a mailing list every month, don't say you're going to do a mailing list every month. You know, let's be really realistic. There are no rules around this either. Some people send an email out to their mailing list every week, some every month, some every quarter, but just try and schedule it. Okay, so there's a bit of a plan around everything that you're doing. If you haven't already had a look at Score app, it's definitely worth you having a look at Score app. It's basically a way of creating a little quiz. It could be around your characters. It could be around some of the content of your book. Have a think about having something like that that you can switch up on your homepage of your website. So getting people to interact with you, with your website, getting people to interact with you getting data, it's all really helpful. And just make sure that there are ways that people can, reasons why people should come to your website more regularly than just the one and done. So something like a quiz that's, every month you do a new quiz or something, that can be a really good way of getting people to keep coming back to your website. Another thing to spring clean is the whole e-commerce side of things. So are you actually letting people, it was called Score app, Andrea, but it's in the PDF that I'll send you afterwards as well. So are you selling your books on your website? If you're fulfilling your own orders and you're doing that yourself and it's great and you're happy with that, then brilliant, continue. But just again, double check that it's all working properly. It's one of those things where we set it up and then we don't really ever think about it again. And then we're like, I haven't had any sales for 3 months. It might actually be because something's not working properly. So just make sure that everything's working properly, that the messaging's all up to date, all that sort of thing. If you're not fulfilling your own e-commerce orders, that's absolutely fine. It's something that is very each to their own in terms of whether people want to do it or not. Then make sure that you have got a really clear link to buy on your website. Again, I've got another website that I recommend, which is called Booklinker. Booklinker is a way of creating a universal code for your book that will be international. So it's called Booklinker. It's completely free. You shove in the Amazon link to your book and then it creates a universal link. Make sure that universal link is the one that's on your website. So people then, when they click it, whether they're in America or in the UK, wherever they are, they will be able to go to their local Amazon or local Barnes and Noble, or wherever the book is available to buy. It will go straight to that. Okay, and that's really important, that you don't put any barriers in the way of people buying your book. Okay, so quick spring clean. So just really check, like I say, e-commerce is working all right, that the mailing list stuff is very clear, and that people who visit your website know that who you are, what you write, and how to connect with you. Another thing is just to have a very quick check of all the links. So I've been on various websites. We do a digital audit at Literally, where we basically Google the author, we look at everything that's out there, social media wise and online, and look at the website. And often one of the things that we find regularly is that we'll find a link that doesn't work from the website. So a social media link, because again, we're all human. These things just drop off the list. Like, we don't know that the link has stopped working. So, or maybe you don't use that anymore. But we've got loads of different people with Twitter links that are redundant now and things like that. So just double check that all the links are working and that they're all valid and they're all referenced properly. Make sure you've got rid of any kind of mentions of book coming soon for a book that's already come out, that kind of thing. So just give it a good old spring clean. And if you don't have a website yet, then I recommend that you spend 5 minutes later just looking at which authors you're competing against. Search in your category for bestsellers on Amazon and Waterstones, etc., and then Google them to see what their websites are like. Make a note of 5 things that you really, really like about their websites and would want to mirror or adapt to your own website. This is something you can do anyway, even if you've got your own website. But if you haven't got one yet, then at least then you're going to be making a start. If you want a referral for somebody who can design websites, we've got loads of contacts. We don't do them ourselves in-house, but we've got loads of contacts we can connect you with, so you can find a personal recommendation. But author websites, super, super important. Please do have one. Okay, the 4th thing is to plan some content, planning social media content. Now, this is a question we get asked a lot from authors. How do I know what I'm supposed to post, how regularly I'm supposed to post, all that kind of thing. So first thing is, you don't need to post every day to be visible. You really don't, but you do need to be consistent, okay? So don't stress if you haven't posted for ages. It's never too late to pick it up and try again. And how regularly you post really depends on multiple things. For example, where you're at the moment in the launch cycle. So if you're just about to be launching a book, then you would want to be posting more regularly. If you're in that between book stage, then you might not want to be posting quite so much. But you do still need to be posting. You don't want it just to be everything's around the launch, then it dips, and then a year later you're expecting everyone to still be there and interested in what you're talking about, and then it dips. That's not how it works. You need to be consistent and then raise it up a bit more from the consistent level when you're launching. How often you post also depends on which platforms you're posting to. So some platforms you would want to post on more regularly than others. Again, we can talk about that in a bit if you want to. And then also how many platforms you're posting across, because frankly, if you're trying to post across 5 different platforms, let's be honest, you're probably not going to be able to post every day. I mean, that is ridiculous even for a social media manager full time, right? So I've got a method that will hopefully help you understand a little bit more about the structure of posting. So it's basically thinking about it in batches of 15, okay? So it's called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, and it's basically breaking down that 5 posts should be about X, 4 posts should be about Y, and so on. So I'm going to talk you through it. If you use this as your structure for your social media content plan, it means you're going to not be struggling with trying to work out what to talk about, and it's going to be much, much easier for you and not so overwhelming. There are no rules around this. This is what I have created, but you might say, actually, I would rather do more posts on this, or I'd rather do more posts on that. But if you think about it in this way, so 5 posts on this, 4 posts on that, 3 posts on the other, 2 posts on the other, 1 post on the other, then you're going to start seeing how you can batch content in batches of 15. And if you're doing a post every other day, then this will give you 30 days, right? So it's really, really easy for you to see how this can multiply and become a really good way of you sharing content and planning content. So I recommend that you do 5 book focused posts. So the biggest amount of that 15 content, so a third of that content should be around the actual book itself or the books, okay? So things like talking points, themes, hooks, extracts, information about your covers, why you chose that colour, any origins to the book ideas, work in progress at the moment, behind the scenes of your writing life, where you write, draft snippets, anything around the actual book side of things, okay? That's 5, so that's the bulk. 4 would be 4 call to action posts. And when I say call to action, I mean you're trying to get them to act, you're trying to get them to do something, which would not always be buying the book, okay? That's separate. So the call to action posts would be things like sign up to the mailing list, follow me on another platform, like if you've just moved over to Blue Sky, like a lot of people have, like and follow to enter a competition, share a review on Amazon or Goodreads, tell a friend about the book, tag a friend who you think would like the book, sign up to this event. So you want to be trying to close the loop, like I say, and trying to get people to move around your world by getting them to go somewhere else and do something else, okay? So that's the 4th one. 3 direct sales posts. So you've got to remember that you are in the business of making money as an author, and it is okay to talk about your book in the context of trying to get people to buy it. You just wouldn't want 15 of those posts to be about buy my book, but 3 of those 15 I think is acceptable. I'm very British. The whole idea of call to actions and direct sales make me come out in a rash. It makes me very uncomfortable. So if you're like me, then I get it. But this is why I have this method, because it makes me stick to this. So 3 direct sales posts. So that could be a pre-order. It could be a simple buy my book today on Amazon. It could be that you're doing a promo, you've got a discount, you're running a 99p ebook deal, whatever it is. But this is a very specific buy this thing that I'm selling post, okay? Obviously you don't want it just to be buy my book. You need to get a bit creative, but every now and then buy my book is okay, because like I say, you are in the business of selling books as an author. It might be that you want to sell them a course, a workshop, you might have a short story, novella coming out on ebook. There's other things that you might be trying to sell, might not just be that one particular book. And actually this gets you to be a bit more creative with what other stuff you could be selling and other revenue streams. Because if all 3 posts are always about buying that one particular book, you're going to get bored of that. It'll give you the goal to do something else and launch another book or to launch something else. 2 review posts. So 2 of the posts should be snippets or sound bites from reviews, from endorsements, from Goodreads, from Amazon, from online book review tours, from NetGalley, wherever you're getting your reviews from. I'm going to do another workshop on reviews, because reviews are the biggest part of book marketing. They are the absolute cornerstone of marketing a book, and it's super important. So 2 review posts is a minimum, and then 1 personal share. Now, if you are the sort of author who's like, I don't really want to share what I'm having for dinner, I don't like talking about my garden, I don't like talking about going on where I'm on holiday, I'm asking you to do 1 out of 15 posts about yourself. That's all. Okay. It could be something to do with your pets, could be about a hobby, could be about cooking, could be about gardening. We're trying to give some kind of personality here. Okay. So it's about what you want to show. You choose how much of yourself you want to put across. You absolutely do not have to do more than 1 personal share out of 15, in my opinion. But you might want to swap it around. So like I say, if you're about to launch a book, you're probably going to be doing more about book focused posts, and you're going to be doing more about direct sales. In between those launches, you might be wanting to do a bit more personal stuff because you're going to be looking for content. And quite frankly, that's probably one of the easier things to come up with. If you go to a nice National Trust place on the weekend, you can take a photo of a pretty tree rather than trying to think, oh my God, what am I going to write about in my book? So it's up to you. This is just a guide, but the idea is that it helps you with some structure. Okay, the 5th one, and then we're going to go into Q&A, is we're going to look at content pillars. So again, this is just a very kind of basic 101 marketing thing that I've applied across for books. Working out what to post is one of the biggest challenges, as we know. And the 15 post rule will help, but I do think this is going to help even more. So your content pillars are basically the 5 big umbrella themes or messages that make up your author brand, okay? This will really help you create your social media content plan in combination with that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule. So just to give you some real practical examples, my 5 content pillars for my social media are: number 1, publishing and author branding tips. Number 2, books and authors we're currently working with. Number 3, diversity and inclusion, representation in books. Number 4, behind the scenes of my work and the other businesses I run. And then number 5, my life as a working mum and book lover. So I'll talk about books I'm not necessarily representing, but that I've read, or places I've been with my kids. That's my 1 personal share post, okay? So when you're clear on your pillars, your content then becomes so much easier to plan and create because you're not starting from scratch every time, and you're building a brand, not just filling this feed. So examples of author content pillars would be behind the scenes stuff from an author perspective. So sharing as much or as little as you want about you as an author. Okay, so the meetings that you're going to, the literary festivals that you're going to, the bookshops that you're going to, the work that you're writing, the research that you're doing for your next book, the marketing that you're doing for the current book. But you as an author, okay? And then you've got behind the scenes from the books, so the actual books themselves. So whatever themes you've got in your books, whatever facts or research or anything you've got that you can pull out of your books. And this is fiction and non-fiction. There's no separation between these two. It's not easier to do content creation for a fiction versus a non-fiction or anything. It's not how it works. Then you've got another content pillar would be something around the actual genre that you write in or the specialist subject that you've got. So you might be a psychologist that specialises in leadership. You might be a romantic fiction writer. You might be a historical fiction author. Whatever your sort of genre, your main genre that you write in and that you're building that author brand for, that's one that you want to have as one of your content pillars. So you can talk about other books and films and authors and TV shows and tropes and themes and headlines and stories that relate to that genre. Okay, there's lots of stuff you can be doing within the genre that you write for. And then the 4th pillar would be something around reviews, because like I say, they're really important. So any reviews you've got, feedback you've got, sharing those would be a whole pillar in itself. And then you've got things like I call it action. So things like events, speaking gigs, literary festivals, bookshops, workshops you've attended, libraries, if you go to another author's launch, if you read something that you want to highlight and spotlight because they seem to be getting a lot of attention, so why not jump on it? It's up to you, but you could do that. There's lots of things you could do around the action side of things. So if you after this or tonight, whenever, if you think about what your 5 content pillars would be, match that up with that 15 batch rule, and you will find that you're going to be finding it much easier to get that content going. So, okay, just very quickly, I want to just let you know that I'm going to put in the DM. I'm going to DM one of you. I am just literally going to go down at random and just take someone's name and tell you that you've won this course, basically. So the author branding coaching course, which is a 5-week program. I know some of you that are in this session have already done it. But basically you get to be part of the next one. So you can either do you can choose. You either do the intensive, which is like a 1-dayer, or you do the 5-week program. It's the same content. Then you get it for free, basically, and it's worth £1,000. I've also got a 50% discount code for each one of you. So you are very welcome to email me and say, I was on this course, I want the 50% discount code. So then you will get that. So you would only pay £499 for the course. And then I've also got the Vault, which is basically every webinar that I've ever done, that I record every webinar, plus extra content that I create and record for the Vault. It's got loads of how-to guides in there, loads of author branding and marketing stuff, tutorials, how to engage booksellers, how to work with influencers, how to work with journalists, how to use LinkedIn as an author for any genre, a TikTok for beginners, intro. There's loads of stuff in there. And basically usually retails for £249 for a year's access, but I'm going to offer it to the first 5 of you who either DM me or email me for £99 for a lifetime. So you can basically access all the content that's already been recorded over the past few years and everything that comes forever in the future for only £99, but it's only for 5 people because I have to kind of cap it. So if you want access to the Vault, which is basically loads and loads of webinars and workshops, then you are very welcome to message. So it's £99 for the first 5 people. For lifetime access, it's usually £249 for a year. And the author brand coaching course is £1,000 usually, but I'm going to give it to you for £500 if you let me know you want the discount code. And I will message somebody now and let them know that they have won the free course. So let's go for a Q&A, and I can do the messaging while I'm looking at the questions. Does anybody want to help me out and ask me a question by unmuting themselves so I can multitask?
You know the mailing list to
Yes.
set one up. Would you say it's a good idea to include like people from your personal life as well, like friends or whoever?
I think basically it's all about permission, Maris. So if you think you could email them and say, do you want to join my mailing list?
Okay.
You could definitely have friends and family in there, because ultimately friends and family are your first readers, aren't they, typically? And then people come out from there, the network comes out from there. You don't know if your best friend might mention your book to somebody at their work, and then those work people will start saying, oh, let's get her in for this book club we do, or let's get her in to do this or the other. So these people that are really close to you could be incredibly helpful. I always say, when you're thinking about your network, start with the people you know well, closest, and then start going out. So, but it's about getting their permission though, Maris. So you just need to make sure that they are happy to join your mailing list. So make it easy for them. Say, if you're happy to join my mailing list, I'll add you. You don't need to sign up anywhere. But yeah, definitely
Thank
like
you.
that.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. Okay, if you can just, lots of people are putting stuff in the chat for me directly about the courses and things like that. So that's great. I'm not going to answer you all individually if that's okay, just because I don't want to distract. But I will get back to everyone, and especially if you want the £99 access to the Vault, I'll make sure you get that if you're the first 5. Okay, has anyone got another question that they want to?
Yeah, following on from what you've just said about mailing lists and asking permission, are there any GDPR implications or anything with keeping a list of people's emails?
Not if they've given you permission. Not if they've given you permission. No, absolutely none. If you use the MailerChimp or MailerLite or any of those things, they will also have a very automatic unsubscribe notice at the bottom. It just means that they will then click that unsubscribe notice, and then they'll be removed off of your list that you're housing on that software. So it does it all for you anyway. If you're doing it on an Excel spreadsheet, like a lot of authors start with, and I have no judgment on that because I love an Excel spreadsheet, then obviously you're going to have to manage that yourself, and you'd have to put in the email, if you want to unsubscribe, just let me know. But essentially, if they've given you their permission, you should be able to email them. What you don't want to do is say, I'm going to email you once a month and then email them once a day. I know you wouldn't, Sarah, but once a month, email them once a day, because that's going to pee them off, and then they're going to probably get a bit. But again, strictly speaking, they've given you their email address, and they can unsubscribe at any time. So don't worry about GDPR. Don't let that be the thing that stops you.
I can think of other things that will stop me, but anyway.
I know it's one of those things where people don't want to do it, and I get it. I didn't want to do it for years either. It's quite a weird thing, but once you're in it, it really works very well for every author that I've ever spoken to about it. So it is worth doing.
Okay, thanks, Helen.
You're welcome.
Helen, I've got a question about the 54321 post structure, specifically the
Yes.
3 sales posts.
Yes, go for it.
If you, so you know that I've published loads of books before, but I'm writing my debut novel is coming out at the end of this year. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I'm using this to kind of say, okay, I've now got to build a entirely new brand platform totally from scratch. I don't have anything to sell that relates to the fiction. What would you recommend I use those 3 sales posts for instead?
Well, I think this is exactly where, at this point in time, you probably don't really want to be doing that yet. You don't want to be wasting those posts on that just yet, because it's going to make it more difficult. As soon as you put a stumbling block in the way, it's going to become, you're not going to want to do it, and it's not going to work for you. So I would say don't do that. Replace it with something else for now until you have got a pre-order, or you've got an event or something, or a workshop that how to write creative fiction, because I know you do all this stuff. Like something else that you would sell, basically. But until you've got something to sell, whether it's a pre-order link or anything, then those sales posts aren't going to work. And that's why I said it doesn't matter if it's not a book. It could be that you sell something else. But if you've got nothing else to sell it in that fiction space, then arguably you could be selling some of your non-fiction stuff to kind of give you the credibility. But I think I probably wouldn't muddy the waters, to be honest. I probably wouldn't. I'd probably wait until you've got something to start talking about on the sales side.
So would I be better served talking more about the book? So instead of 5, I'm doing 8.
Yeah, exactly that. Or you might find that you might want to do more about like the research side of it, or the where you're at right now in the idea of developing the book. Or you might want to talk about a bit more about you, and build up a bit more of your author brands and more of the personal share stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Helen. Can I just ask? I was trying to look for the raised hands thing that you sometimes get on these Zoom calls, but I couldn't find it. Sorry.
Don't worry, Kelly.
I've got 2 questions kind of related, although one of them has just gone out of my mind. So let's ask the first one first.
All the time.
I know it's come back now. So the first one is, you mentioned about not spreading, not your words, but you not spreading yourself too thin across loads of platforms.
Yes.
So my first question was, how many platforms do you think would be advisable? And then the second part of my question, which I'm going to get in there before I forget it again, is a lot of people say that posting consistently is key rather than like loads of stuff. I must admit, it's one of the things that I do leave to the last minute and then I don't do. But minimum consistency, what would you recommend to at least be doing the minimum consistency of posting on social media?
Okay, right. I've had to write those down because I am also forgetful. So the first one is how many platforms. And I hate to be this person, but it really does depend on who you're writing for, how many books you've got coming out, what your goals are as an author, blah, blah, blah. Roughly speaking, I would say don't do more than 2 anyway, really, just because I don't think that's manageable for somebody who's an author and probably also got a day job. So I would also not be able to tell you exactly which platforms, because what we do is we look at, again, author brand and what your goals are and what genre you're writing in and who your readers are before we make recommendations. But just to give you an idea, the typical platforms are Instagram, LinkedIn, sometimes Facebook, sometimes Threads or Blue Sky, one of the sort of newer, more emerging ones. But typically it's Instagram or LinkedIn that we do most of our work on for authors, just to give you an idea.
Okay, that's interesting you mentioned Facebook, because a lot of people that I speak to, straight away they say, Facebook is for the older kind of generation. All the young people are not on Facebook of thing.
They're not. No. And you'll notice as well that I've not mentioned TikTok, because I cannot bear that every single publisher and publicist in the world seems to think that TikTok is the magic solution to everyone's problems. It really isn't. You have to be on TikTok a lot. You have to produce a lot of really good content. It takes 3 or 4 times the amount of time to produce one post on TikTok than it does to produce something on Instagram. And not every book and every author should be on TikTok, because their readers won't necessarily be there. So there is no magic sort of solution to you should do this one or that one. But like I say, most of the work we tend to do is around Instagram and LinkedIn, because that's where I find there are a lot of bookie type people, reviewers or journalists or relevant readers, and it's thinking about the different stakeholders that you want to connect with. So we've talked a lot about readers in this session. Obviously, I've had to do a very quick fire run through what we do, but essentially we would look at other stakeholders as well. So like I say, librarians, booksellers, journalists, reviewers, readers. There's so many different people, and they will be on different platforms. So it's about who's your priority for that moment in time, or for that next 6 months. I try and get people to think about a 6-month window. So what's your priority for the next 6 months? If it's that you want to get on speaking gigs and be connected to literary festivals and events organisers, then you're really going to want to be thinking about where they are. If you're more bothered about getting onto readers and reviewers, then you're going to need to think about where they are, and they will possibly be in different places.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. And the consistency question?
Yeah, consistency, I would say consistency, yeah, is one of my 10 C's. It's actually my last C, and it's arguably the most important one. That's why it's last. When we've tracked what successful authors have done, so we've worked with over 700 authors, and when we've tracked those that have done incredibly well, they're the ones that have been consistent in terms of the number of books they've been putting out and the sorts of work they've been doing in terms of building their brand and discoverability online. And so social media is part of that. Consistency doesn't necessarily mean frequency, though. It doesn't mean that you have to be posting every day. So I would say 3 times a week would be absolutely fine for most platforms.
Is that on each platform or across the platform?
That's on each platform. If you did one post on Instagram and then 2 posts on X, then the people that are on Instagram are only going to see you once a week, so it won't matter. You've got to assume that it won't be the same people on both platforms. And if they are the same people on both platforms, then it's not worth doing.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. And thank you for the day. It has been amazing.
Oh, yes, thank you. I'm pleased. That's lovely to hear. I've let Hannah know that she's won, so that's all very exciting. Whoop, whoop. I've never met Hannah before, by the way, so this is all completely random. Right, has anyone got any other questions, or shall I quickly run through the chat and just make sure I know not everyone wants to speak. I think everyone's asked questions based on, what was the app called? So there was Score app, so SCORE app, absolutely brilliant, love it. And then Booklinker, BOOKLINKER. Thank you for the feedback, that's gorgeous, thank you so much. If you want access to all the webinars for £99, let me know. If you want the discount code, let me know. Oh, and I should have said, if you want to get the free PDF resource as well, you need to let me know, because I'm not just going to assume everyone wants it. I don't want to be that person spamming everyone. So yeah, let me know if you want all that stuff. I'll put my email address in here as well, and then you can, for those of you that don't know what that is, you can message me. So yeah, basically, I think we'll wrap up if that's all the questions. So thank you again for being here. I hope you're walking away with a bit more clarity, a bit of confidence, a bit of momentum, maybe, a bit of a fire underneath you. Those 5 things that we've talked about today, you can definitely start at least one of them tonight. I don't see any reason why not. My tip is to go for the one that you don't want to do first and start from there. And yeah, if you'd like any further help, then you know where we are. And I do believe that every single book has a readership, and your book is not for everyone. It shouldn't be for everyone. So we just need to find out who those readers are, where they are, and then give them what they want in terms of content and communications. So yeah, good luck. And if you do have any other questions afterwards, you're very welcome to ask me. All right, everyone. Thank you. Oh yeah,
thanks so much, Helen.
Do buy your own domain name, absolutely. Even if you haven't got any plans to do anything with it for a while, get your author name, and then also do the same on all social media platforms, even if you don't think you're going to use them. Instagram, TikTok, Threads, X, Blue Sky, Facebook. Secure that name, that handle, because you don't want someone else taking it and starting being weird and putting stuff under your name. So when you get famous, these things happen. The haters going to hate. All right, cool. Have fun. I'm glad some people get my sense of humour. I can see some people.
Thank you.
What is she talking about? Right, see you later, everyone.
Thanks so much, Helen.
Bye, lovely people. Bye.